Hi, I'm Victoria Clark, and this is my life in the theater. Wow, okay. Sunday in the Park with George, that's the first one. A little known fact, I didn't really intend to be an actor. I came to New York to direct, and so a casting director by the name of Ira Weitzman, who now, he's an amazing person. He's head of new musical development at Lincoln Center Theater. But a million years ago, when I first moved here, he was a casting director, and he saw me present new material for NYU and the musical theater writing program, where I was attending as a director in graduate school. And he saw me do a bunch of different roles, new work, and he pulled me aside and said, "I think you should be an actor." And I don't think it was because he didn't think I could be a director, although maybe that's what he was thinking. But I was just a young kitten then, and so he set up an audition for Sunday in the Park with George, which I did not get. But then a few months later, an opening in the show came up, and I did book it, and it was an incredible experience working with James Lapine and Sondheim and that entire cast. And yeah, so that was my first Broadway show, which is insane. I covered both Celeste's, I don't want the other either, little girls fishing on the side, and Frida, the German cook. And I never went on. There you go. But I was ready to. And it was at the iconic Booth Theater, which makes a return appearance in my career some decades later. Next. Cats, the kitty cat play. Ironic that I was just talking about kitten earlier. Yes, okay, Cats. I called my mother from the subway. Remember when they had payphones? That's how old I am. And I called my mother from a payphone in the Columbus Circle subway stop, and I said, "Mom, I just booked the first national tour of Cats," and she was devastated. But I was so happy because that was the Hamilton of its day, people, okay? Before Les Mis was the Hamilton of its day. Cats was the Cats of its day. And everybody wanted to be a cat, including me. And so this was a thrill. I understudied the opera cat, Jellicle, I can't believe I remember that name, and Jenny Anydots, the tap dancing cat. And I sang in the booth behind the orchestra, and I popped out about 1 million high Cs every show. That was hilarious. And the first time I went on for the tap dancing cat was a bit of a mayhem. It was a miracle I made it through, but I did. And that was just an incredible, incredible experience because we went to many great American cities and sat down for a long time. And I've never been skinnier. And I couldn't walk when I got up in the morning. Okay, now the next thing I see here is the first national tour of Les Misérables, which I did as well. I played Madame Thénardier. Oh, I forgot to say on Cats, I got bumped up to play the opera cat full time after I understudied for a little while then. And I did a pratfall on my left side. Sorry, going back to Cats. Did a pratfall on my left side, which still gives me problems to these days, but I got a really big laugh every show, so it was worth it. And I also got to jump off the ship and did not make the crash pad one time, which was also very painful, but I'm alive today to tell the story, and I still am in PT, but it's okay. Now, Les Misérables. Okay. I was, I think, the youngest person to play Madame Thénardier. That's probably not a correct statistic, but I'm claiming it now just because I want to. And I used to wear, in rehearsal, I used to wear my hair like this in little ponytails, and everyone thought I was 10. Little known fact, I coached Jennifer Butt on her audition for her Broadway audition for Les Mis. And then I just coached myself to do exactly what she did because she booked it. And I thought, it's sometime later. Maybe they don't remember what Jennifer did for her audition. So I just coached myself to do the same thing that she did. And I sang Worst Pies. And I booked Madame Thénardier. And that was really fun. And that show paid for my first wedding. Okay. There are lots more playbills, but these are only the Broadway ones. Isn't that terrible to say? I'm so old. Oh my gosh, I just saw another one. Okay. Guys and Dolls. Okay. that was incredible. Jerry Zaks, the director, Chris Chadman, the choreographer. Loved being in that production. Walter Bobby designed incredible costumes. Tony Walton did the sets. I'm talking all about the creative team. I understudied Faith Prince, and I understudied Josie de Guzman. So I understudied both Adelaide and Sarah. Never went on for Sarah. In fact, I never even rehearsed Sarah. So here's a little known fact. It's going to be full of little known facts. The first day I saw my name go up on the rehearsal schedule to rehearse Sarah, I gave my notice because I thought one big part is enough to cover, in addition to being in the mission band, because those cymbals were, ouch, they were very tricky. Okay, then we have a grand night for singing, Rodgers and Hammerstein's. We were nominated for 15 Tonys. That's not true, a bunch, because that was kind of a slim year. I love you, Walter Bobby, who cast me in A Grand Night for Singing. It started as a Rainbow and Stars show up there. This room is full of people and no one is helping me. Rainbow with the Rainbow Room, hence the name. One of my favorite stories from Grand Night for Singing, we used to call it Grand Night for Swaying, because there was it's a grand night for singing. So we used to call that Grand Night for Swaying. We swayed a lot, which I loved. We were rehearsing it in Rainbow Stars, and Walter Bobby's like, I guess I was singing my songs like this, and he's like, okay, Vicki, everyone is here. Everyone is like eye level and down. So you must cease playing to the balcony because there is not a balcony. So I said, thank you for that very helpful tip. Oh, here we go, How to Succeed. All right, this was shocking. Did not expect to get this. Didn't expect to get any of these things in my life. It's been such a blessed life. Okay, How to Succeed. I had just given birth. And my friend Ted Sperling was the music director on this, and he called and said, I think there might be a part opening up in this show. And I said, I have just given birth, and I have not put on a pair of heels in 9 months or so. And so he said, doesn't matter, you have to come in. And I did. And I brought the creative team cookies, and my friend Ted overslept. And so he wasn't even there. And I booked it, and I think it was because of the cookies. And I had a great time playing Smitty opposite Matthew Broderick and Megan Mullally. And they are hilarious and fantastic scene partners. And we just had an amazing supporting cast. Jeff Blumenkrantz, Luba Mason, Ron Carroll, Jonathan Freeman. It was an absolutely hysterical group of people. Love them all so much and learned so much working with Des McAnuff. And Wayne Salento did the choreography and made me do things my body has never done before, including all the things I had to do in Cats. And yes, Coffee Break, one of my favorite all-time moments in the theater. Okay. Titanic, wow, okay. Titanic, I expected the stage manager to call every day and tell us that we didn't have to come to rehearsal. I just I never expected that to actually fly or sink, and it sank really well, and it ran for 2 years. It was an incredible experience working with Maury Yeston and Peter Stone on that. They made the ship the star of the show, which I thought was very smart. Although there were so many incredible actors in the show, and we never knew from day to day where the story was going to move. So that show was constantly in flux during previews. And we had a dressing room with Alma Cuervo and Judy Blazer and Amelia, our dresser, and myself, and my 4-year-old son at the time would sit underneath my dressing table, and Alma Cuervo would bring in her beautiful, adorable 3-legged poodle. And so it was very full, and it was a very small dressing room. And Judy Blazer used to answer the phone, hello, dames at sea. That was back, for you young people who are watching, that was back in the days when they had landlines in the dressing room. Imagine that. And the phone would ring, and people would tell you they wanted to come see you backstage. It was awesome. Oh, Cabaret. Oh, wow. Yes, I did that, didn't I? Okay, Cabaret. I played Fräulein Kost, the old whore. Typecasting. Oh, my gosh. I have had too much coffee already. All right. It's so early, you have no idea. Okay, Cabaret. That was incredible. Sam Mendes I replaced the iconic and incredible Michelle, come on, it's coming to me, Pock. I just call her by her last name, Pock. It was amazing. And I went in to replace her and stayed for 2 years. I can't believe I did that show for so long. My son was 4/6 during that whole time period, and he used to do my makeup. He would come to work, and because we had kind of this expressionistic makeup, and I thought that he did a better job than I did, so he would just come in, I would hand him the brushes, and he would just kind of go like that. And it looked great. Wow. Okay, that was also 4.5-inch silver La Ducas, and I was running up and down 2 spiral steel staircases carrying an accordion. So there's a bit of PT involved with this whole conversation could be traced back to my physical therapy. But I think that show, that show was very rigorous, and I got to work opposite Michael Stuhlbarg, who's an absolute dream as a scene partner. And yeah, I mean, that was just an iconic cast. Carol Shelley was also in my cast, and I got to do it a little bit of the time with Alan Cumming, and then did quite a bit of the run with Michael C. Hall, who was just a young puppy out of NYU at the time and already incredibly brilliant. Urinetown the musical. Oh my gosh. Okay, I played Penelope Pennywise in that show. And I replaced the great iconic legend Nancy Opel in that show. Even though I cannot belt at all like Nancy Opel, I did manage to fake mix a high G in The Privilege to Pee. Wow. Okay, so much fun. Little known fact, here's another one. I'm sure Nancy would have booked this show no matter what, because she's so great. But they did send me the script early on, and I kept saying no. I didn't even open it because of the title. How stupid was I? I should have at least opened it to see how funny it was. But I thought, Urinetown the musical, I don't think so. And that was a bad decision because it was so great. And anyway, I'm so happy that I got to do it. Eventually it came around the park, came back to me, and that was really great. And then I left that show because I had an offer to do something else, and everyone thought I was crazy. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to the Intiman Theater in Seattle." And they're like, "I don't know, you're on Broadway now and you're in town." I was like, "I know, but this is a really special part." So I think that might be next. Yes. Okay, so that was a show called The Light in the Piazza, which started at the Intiman in Seattle, and then we moved to the Goodman Theater in Chicago, and then it came and found a home at the Vivian Beaumont and Lincoln Center Theater. That show has my heart, will always have my heart. Let's see. I have so many things to say about it. I'm emotional. Looking at the cover, so I'll just look at this poor little girl. I'll look at little Cosette instead. All right, so Light in the Piazza changed my life forever and ever. Before that show, I think I was seen as like the sassy, funny girl who could belt and kind of sing anything. And I had to have several auditions for Piazza because there were folks involved in the casting process who didn't think I had the depth or the kind of the weight to carry that part. And now look at me. Now all I do are these serious parts, and people forgot that I was funny. But in those days, people were like, "Oh, she's too funny. I don't know if she can really land the more serious parts of the story." But eventually, I was able to convince them. I think in the beginning they didn't think, they're like, I have so many things to say about the show, but I think at the beginning they didn't think I looked old enough to play the part. And then I reminded Adam Gettle that that's why God invented wigs. And eventually, I really settled into that role. I mean, also I was going through the aftermath of a divorce then, and so I was able to work out a lot of my grief and loss, feelings of loss, and a little bit of guilt, or maybe a lot of guilt, during that show. And so it was a tremendous way to release a lot of those feelings and put it into a character who also needed to release and find some joy and find some relief from all of that suffering. So what else do I have to say? Iconic Kelly O'Hara, Matthew Morrison. Oh, the Tony night. Should we talk about the Tony night? Yes, we should, because my mic broke. Well, Tony night. And Craig Lucas, wonderful Craig Lucas, who wrote our book, had written a special monologue for me to say, and I was supposed to come out with my, my red guidebook to Florence or to Italy, and then I had my pocketbook, and I was supposed to say, well, I'm Margaret Johnson, and I'm here in Florence with my daughter Clara, and I had the whole thing going, and right before we were the curtain was going up, I think Adam Gettle, wonderful Adam, had just won his Tony for Best Score, and so the silver curtain was flying up, and the sound guy comes in and says, your mic is out, and handed me a gigantic, just like old school handheld mic, and it was very large, and I already had my hands full of props. And there was a guy that was doing the Steadicam. He was in front of me, sort of on his knees, kind of crouching around. So I was supposed to address him this way, and I had the mic, and I was trying to remember the new monologue, introducing the segment, and right before they went to us, as they were announcing it, Kelly saw the color just drain out of my face, and she and I are very close, and from way across the stage at Radio City, she saw me kind of flounder and practically pass out, and she jumped up and down in her little blue dress and said, "Mother, pull it together. You've got this. You've got this. Just pretend like you're a radio announcer, an old school radio announcer. Just do it." And I just kind of brought me back to life. And, sure enough, we went through it, and the guy was like, you're doing great. The guy that was like, there was a guy crouching beside the other guy crouching who was operating the camera. There was another guy that was in charge of sound. He was like, I was like, how am I supposed to pay attention to you, look in the camera, remember this monologue, and hold all my props? It was too many things. And then I'm watching him, and then he's like, I'm like, what? He's like, I was like, what are you saying to me? This is live TV. People are watching. People in Thailand, people probably in Cairo are watching this right now somewhere, and they don't know that I have so many things to think about. And so, okay. So finally I got the message that he needed the mic back. So I'm like, okay, I'm talking, and I'm like, well, and then after that, I don't know what she was saying in her Southern accent. And this is the story about, I'm just going to hand this over here to you, young man. And I'm just going to, I guess this little thing up here is working now. And it was all very traumatic. And so after that, I don't really remember too much of what happened because I was in a state of shock. But someone told me later that I won the Tony that night. And my little son was 10 years old. He was my date. And he wore a polyester tuxedo, and he stuck to the seat because it was so hot. Because I'm talking a lot about Tony night. Little known fact, they turn off the air conditioning during the Tonys downstairs. Not upstairs, it's nice upstairs. Downstairs, it's hot because they don't want the sound coming through. So they turn off the sound, and so it gets very hot down there, and my son stuck to his seat afterwards and was very upset because the polyester stuck to his skin, and then he stuck to the seat. Sister Act, oh my gosh. Okay, so there was some passage of time that went between Light in the Piazza and Sister Act. Jerry Zaks, iconic, I should say, Bartlett Shear directed Light in the Piazza, and I love him. And that was his first musical that he's ever directed. He's gone on to direct many more, and he would pull me aside and say, how am I supposed to do this? And I was like, just pretend it's a play, you're doing great. Don't ask me, you're the director. Okay, Sister Act, wow. Jerry Zaks called and said, I think you need to play Mother Superior. That's where I met Bettina Miller. That's where I told her about how I met my husband. And then she found her husband the same way, in the same online dating platform. And that there's more to say about Sister Act. One of my scene partners, who shall remain nameless, often forgot to make an entrance. And sometimes it would take a while for this scene partner to arrive. And so I would just luckily turn it into a prayer, because I was playing Mother Superior. So I would just look up at the spot operator and I would say, "Dear God, I wonder what's happened to so-and-so, the character's name. I do pray for them so deeply and desperately, and hope that they're doing well, because we had an appointment scheduled." That happened repeatedly, but that's okay. It's all right. We made it through, and people didn't know, I don't think. Sister Act, there's a lot of sequins in that. Couldn't hear too well because of the wimple, but I actually loved doing that part so much, and I love that song here, "Within These Walls." Alan Menken, you are a genius. Okay, Rodgers and Hammerstein. Oh, say we're running out. Rodgers and Hammerstein, Cinderella. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Dear departed Mark Brokaw, so genius. So this, I think, was Mark Brokaw's second big musical. He was had an incredible eye. One thing that a lot of people don't know about Mark is he was also a beautiful artist. And so the way that the set moved was incredible, with the trees and like the giant clock. I played the fairy godmother / Marie in that. But what I wanted to say about that was that Douglas Carter Bean popped into my dressing room when I was in Sister Act and said, "I think I have your next Broadway show," which was very sweet. So he sort of kind of wrote Crazy Marie for me, I think we can say, which was amazing. And I got to fly in that show. That was my first flying by foy attempt, because I always wanted to play Peter Pan. Probably not the best body type for me to play Peter Pan, but I always wanted to, probably a bit more of a Captain Hook or Smee perhaps, but I wanted to play Peter Pan. And so instead of that, I played the fairy godmother, and only got stuck in the flies once, perhaps twice. I had to go up, and then I had to fly across the stage, and then at the end I had to fly back during the curtain call, and then at the very end of the show, one time, Victoria Grecki, who is my dresser, a longtime dresser, did many Broadway shows with her. She was the only one that was paying attention when I was up in the flies. No shade on the stage management. They had a lot to do. They had a lot of bodies on the deck. They're getting people in and out for the curtain call, so no shade on the stage management. However, no one was watching me getting stuck in the flies, okay? So I was way up in the flies, and something happened, and my wings or whatever, my bustle, I'm not sure, something got stuck on something, on another pipe, the wrong pipe, and I was hanging upside down, okay, friends? You couldn't see this because I was off stage, and I couldn't really talk because I was really terrified, and I was letting out these little peeps like, "Ow! Ah! And Vicki looked up, and very, like a great dresser does, she alerted the authorities, and they had to, I don't know, send in the fire department. I don't even remember how we got out of this, but it was a Saturday night, and I was very tired, and my husband proposed the next day. And that was my second husband. There are only two, folks. There are other things that happened in Cinderella, like the great Laura Osnes, Marla Mindell, Harriet Harris. It was Santino Fontana. It was an unbelievable cast. Greg Hildreth. There was a lot of hilarity on and off stage. Santino claims that I did terrible things to him when he was the prince on stage, like handing him potatoes for no reason. I don't remember doing that. I do remember picking up trash from the stage and incorporating it into my character, and possibly my wig. I do remember inserting things into my wig, but I can't claim for 100% that that's true. All right, the Snow Geese. My first show at the Manhattan Theater Club at the Samuel J. Friedman. This was my first play on Broadway with Mary Louise Parker. It was working with Daniel Sullivan, who directed it. It was, I remember I got to sing badly in that play as I was sweeping the floor. The play was written by Char White, and it was a beautiful play. I was very happy to be a part of it. I wish I had run a little bit longer, but I loved that play. And I took a leave from Cinderella to do that, and then I went back to Cinderella. Okay, Gigi, hello, Vanessa Hudgens, hello. That was really fun. I got to play opposite Howard McGillen, who I'd been a fan of for so many years. and we got to sing, I remember it well, together on a bench. Oh my gosh, it was just, it was like a confection. It was like a macaron. Macaron, am I saying that right? Macaron. Hey, Macarena. It was the whole thing. It was like a confection. It was an incredible experience. I got to dance in that as well. Catherine Zuber designed the costumes, so every single one of my costumes was like unbelievable. And I got married right after that run, and Kathy Zuber also designed my wedding dress, which was amazing. Kathy Zuber also designed the costumes for the light in the Piazza. So all those iconic silhouettes from the 50s, she was able to incorporate, and I was very blessed. Oh, wow. Okay. Kimberly Akimbo. Okay, that was a beautiful thing. It took me back to the Booth Theater, so that was full circle, being able to come back there after so many years, Sunday in the Park. That was the show I did not expect. I ran away from Janine Tesori when she called me to ask if I would listen to a couple of songs. I said, absolutely not. She's like, no, you should just come to the studio, come to my office. And I was working on a project at City Center at the time. I was working on Love Life. And I couldn't really say no, because she's like, my office is literally down half a flight of stairs. I think you can walk down 4 steps and listen to one song called Anagram. And she played Anagram, and I sort of wept uncontrollably and said, that is a perfect song. And the reason I had been running away from it was because I had always been a fangirl of Janine's and thinking, oh, her style is really very sort of pop rock. I'm much more of a legit soprano. I don't think. She's like, you're crazy. You can do it. And so then I was able to meet Jessica Stone, who was a longtime friend, and we actually did Upside Down, How to Succeed together, because she went in for a short time to play Rosemary, so she was a friend. Wow. Justin Cooley, my castmate, Bonnie Milligan, my castmate, everyone, Ali Mazzi, Steve Boyer, the kids who played in the quartet were all amazing. It was just, from start to finish, a delight. I think David Lindsay-Abaire wrote an incredible play. We were so blessed to take his work and that he was able to adapt it into the musical along with Janine. And there were just so many fun details and so many fun touches, and it really put me back in touch with my child and my childhood and my youthful self, and I never want to let go of that because it prevents me from taking myself too seriously. And I think it just brought me so much joy, even though the story, of course, had sort of this tragic element attached. But that wasn't the final, hopefully wasn't the final feeling that people got when they saw the show. Oh my gosh! Okay, this is the first time I'm seeing this. This is the show I'm doing right now. I'm gonna show you. Look at I'm seeing this for the first time. This is the cover of our wonderful Playbill. Oh my gosh. So I'm back at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater, back working at Manhattan Theater Club. I love everybody at MTC so much. They are so meticulous. Their work is so detailed. This is an amazing, amazing play. I'm so excited about this. Wow, out of all my babies, this one is standing out for me, not just because it's what I'm doing right now. In fact, as soon as I leave this, I'm gonna go back to tech rehearsal. It's because it's so theatrical and it's a true story. This is the first time I've done a character who's based on a real character, who's based on a real person, rather. And so this is based on a true story. It's about a young man who is out with friends one night, and it takes place in Nottingham, England. And we're all doing that dialect, by the way. And he gets into a situation, gets into a fight, and throws one single punch. Another man goes down. And the story is about what happens. What led up to that punch, what happens after that punch. It turns out that the man who was hit dies 9 days later. And in this play, I play the dead man's mom. And so in an unexpected turn of events, the mother and father of the man who was killed find a way to forgive Jacob Dunn, the man who threw the punch, and they offer an opportunity for redemption and grace and forgiveness. And they themselves are able to release some of their grief in the process. So it is a play about communication, how we express ourselves. It's a lot about the human condition and how when we don't have the words to use, how physical violence takes over. And it's also about how incredible, how one event can change many, many lives, can ripple out for the worse, right? Things can get worse and worse. Also, things can get better and better with just one motion, with one question, with one attempt at reaching out. So this all really happened. I have met the woman that I play on Zoom a couple of times, and I'll be able to meet her in person very soon. So I'm very excited to share this with New York audiences. It's already has been playing in the UK, in Nottingham, and in London for some time. And it's opening on the West End this fall. So we will have simultaneous runs on the West End and in New York. And so I really invite everyone to come and experience it because it's a very impactful story, and it's also told in a very theatrical and exciting way. There's also a lot of humor and joy in the piece because I think we all derive a lot of joy from sharing a story that has a happy ending. So even though terrible, tragic things happen in life, there is a way to move forward from those things and to learn from them and even to become better in some ways. So that, my friends, is my life in the theater so far. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of this, and look forward to seeing you at Punch.